All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. This is the volunteer training for all election volunteers for the Salt Lake County GOP nominating convention for April 13th, 2024. So thank you for coming. I'm just going to open it up and say welcome. We're so appreciative of you guys for volunteering. We know that you have busy lives and you might have other kind of volunteer responsibilities, including credentialing, for example, but we just want to say thank you for helping us throughout the day. And we are very excited to have you and we need you. And we're really excited for this day. So let's just go over to election or introductions. Mark, do you want to go first?
Sure. My name is Mark Brinton. I have been selected as the election committee chair for the convention, and Chrisanna, who you heard first, Chrisanna Finley, is the vice chair, and we also have Mike Melton, who's on our committee, and the rest of the elections people are you, and we are really appreciative of your time, and we're excited for this convention. This is going to be great. Should I mention responsibility right now?
Yeah.
Okay, so the convention rules say that the elections committee chair, that's me, I am responsible for the conduct of the elections and balloting in this convention. And that includes the security of the paper ballots, the accuracy of the count, the directing the access and conduct of all persons within the balloting areas, ballot counting areas. I cannot be everywhere at once. I need you guys to take on that responsibility and to carry that out and make this a good election. We want it to be fair, transparent, open, and to run well. And we know that you can do that, and we know, and that's why we have these instructions following to help you do that.
Yes. So thank you so much for helping us. And I'll just underscore what Mark said of the importance of your roles. So thank you. Okay, so we're just going to go through the volunteer arrival time. So some of you are arriving early at 7 a.m. to help with credentialing. So if you are also a credentialing volunteer, you'll want to arrive at 7 a.m. We also have election volunteers who will be helping out but are not delegates and not participating in any voting. If that is the case, if you are that kind of person, you want to arrive at 10 a.m. and you want to be in room 110. We're going to do a quick run through of the day, and so definitely be there at 10 a.m. Election volunteers who are a delegate during the day, we know that you'll probably arrive earlier in the day and be credentialed and be talking with candidates and all of that. If at all possible, we know the general session starts at 10 a.m. If at all possible, you're able to sneak away for a bit, we would love for you to come to room 110 at 10:30 a.m. We expect the general session election to start at 11. And so we just want to do a quick powwow because all of you are most likely, I think all of you who are hearing this, are assigned in a position in the general session. So we just want to powwow at 10:30 before the election starts, likely at 11, we'll see, and review your responsibilities for the general session, because that's a really big one and a really important one. So if you are a county delegate and you can't get to room 110, definitely come to the auditorium stage when the election process begins. This will be when Mark starts to go through the explanations and instructions of how the election is going to run. So definitely come down to the auditorium stage. We'll need you right there. And then if any other assignments you have during the day for elections, we would love for you to arrive 15 minutes before each volunteer election assignment in that room that you're supposed to be in. So those are your arrival times. Yes, go ahead.
And just to let you know, room 110 is a classroom at Cottonwood High School, and it's just inside the north main entrance, just to the west of that entrance. So it's very close to the auditorium, and it is where some of the elections will be taking place.
Yes, perfect. Okay, next. All right, so this is the things that you guys should have during the day or bring with you. One is you should have your volunteer schedule that is sent to you via text. We are going to be giving you a neon yellow vest. So if you are volunteering, definitely be wearing one of those. We'll also have an election envelope for your set election during the day, and you'll want to come to the election desk before you head off to your assignment in order to get that election envelope. And then we want you
And
to
that
yeah.
election desk will be in the gymnasium, which
Yes.
is the same location for credentialing. So if you're arriving as a delegate, you will be going to the gymnasium to get your credentials. And just beyond the credentialing desk, right next to the help desk, is where the election desk will be. So that's where you'll come to see us, and that's where you come to report the results of elections as well.
Yes, thank you. And then for food, definitely bring food. We will have food available, but I imagine we expect there will be really long lines, etc. So just make sure that you bring snacks during the day. It's going to be a long day. Some of you guys are going to be there until 6 p.m. So thank you. And then if you guys have any questions or issues throughout the day, please contact Mark or I immediately when those things come up, and then we can attend to your situation as soon as possible. Okay. All right. So actually, before this, I want to go to the general schedule for the day and what the day is going to look like overall. So of course, we have your general session that's at 10 a.m. and we're electing 3 county-wide positions. This will be on one ballot. So there's only one round of voting that will happen, but all 3 positions will be elected in the general session on that one ballot. After that general session concludes, we have a series of breakout sessions through the day with various races. So breakout session 1 is the absolute largest of the day. It doesn't look like it, but the state delegate races that are occurring, there's a ton of them occurring in the state session or in session 1. So this is the huge lift during the day because it has the most races. So we have the state school board, some house races, and multiple state delegate races. Breakout session 2, we have, again, more house races, and you can see their locations, more state delegate races occurring. And then breakout session 3, we have Senate races, more state delegate races occurring. And then session 4, we have the County Council District 2 auditorium in the auditorium race and more state delegate races. And then even more state delegate races in breakout session 5. So there's a lot.
I'd like to mention here, there is a map of Cottonwood High School, and it shows where these various rooms are. The classrooms that we're going to be using are all kind of clustered together in kind of the northwest corner of the school. But one of and the media center is over there as well. One room that you might not find without help is the auxiliary gym. You see it listed there for the Senate 16 race at 3 p.m. It's also used a few other times. To get to the auxiliary gym, you actually go through the gymnasium, out the southeast door and down a hall, and that's the way to get to the auxiliary gym. So just a little heads up in terms of where that's located. Everything else is much more straightforward.
Yes, and you will have a program schedule for the day, and in that program, it will have a map of the school as well. So, okay, so now we're going to jump in now to the elections themselves. When in your assignments, the general flow of those elections and your particular assignments. And then we're going to go into special case scenarios that might occur when you are fulfilling your election volunteer assignment. So election agenda, this is just the general of how it should roll each election through the day. So we're going to welcome attendees. The people will read election processes. The election lead will read those processes. Candidates will have speeches, or there will be nominations for roles like in the state delegate races, but we'll have speeches, and then voting will open, and then you guys are going to handle all the voting and then verify that everybody's voted, and then the voting will be closed. And then you guys are going to go and you're going to tally and count your votes. And we have materials in those packets to do that. And then you are going to announce the number of votes as such, and then determine the results. And then as a volunteer, you'll want to stay in the room after you adjourn the meeting. So please do not leave the room, because you're going to finish up some paperwork, and put the room back together. And then all together, all the set of volunteers that helped run that race, which is the election lead and the ballot box holder and a credential checker and potentially also a poll watcher, you guys all as a group will walk together and take that packet together to the election desk in the gymnasium and hand it to either Mark or I, okay? Don't hand it, don't let anybody else tamper with it. Only hand it to one of us, okay? And it should have
Or
forms. Go ahead, Mark.
or Mike Milton. Mike Milton is also on our committee, and you can hand it to him as well.
Okay. All right, so let me jump through this really quick. Okay. So we're going to go into roles and responsibilities. We have 3 main positions, election volunteer positions, and also a 4th in a special scenario. So I'm going to go through each one in just a big picture. First is the election lead. Your main responsibility is you are running that election. You are leading it, you're running it, you're responsible for it. You should have 2 other volunteers helping you, which should be a ballot box holder and a credential checker, and in some cases also a volunteer poll watcher. But if for some reason they don't show, I ask one of the present county delegates that are already there for the race to help you out. And that might be to collect ballots or to tally those ballots, etc. So definitely, and let us know if there's any issues that occur. Again, contact us. And then another responsibility that you will have during your election is every candidate is allowed a poll watcher. And so if they say, hey, I'm a candidate poll watcher, then you need to ask and make sure that they are credentialed. If they are not a credentialed poll watcher, you need to send them to the elections desk and we will credential them and they can return and be a poll watcher for your election. So those are your big overarching duties. Next, we have the ballot box holder / ballot manager. The ballot box, so some elections will have ballot boxes. This is basically will be the case for each larger designated race. So the Senate, the House races, the county council races, state school board, and the county-wide races. All of those will have a ballot box designated for that race. And again, when you come to the elections desk to come and grab that envelope from us, we will also be handing you that ballot box. So if you are the ballot box holder, you are responsible for the ballot box itself, which is a huge responsibility. We cannot lose them. We cannot have other people handling them. Another important thing is you have to, when you're handling that ballot box, if racing or if the election is not open, you must have your hand over the ballot box hole, not hold, sorry, the hole at all times. I cannot emphasize this enough. Super important. You do not want to move your hand away from that ballot box hole. If you do, it'll screw up. Like there can be a hullabaloo. Number one, the election can be compromised, but people can make a fuss and it can also just redo your whole election process. And we don't want that to happen. So make sure you keep your hand over that. And then you also want to keep your hand on the hole or covering the hole in between the moments where people are submitting the ballot to you. And that is when the elections are open. In races where you do not have a ballot box, you will be collecting ballots and putting them into the manila envelope. So in a way, the manila envelope is your ballot box, okay? And in those races, you're going to be handing out ballots to people, and then you will be collecting ballots as well and helping tally the votes and rubber band all the ballots together to return to the election desk, like after the meeting is adjourned or before the meeting is adjourned and before results are shared. Okay, next we have a credential checker and the marking of credentials. So if you are a credential checker and maybe in your volunteer schedule that was texted to you, it might say elections credentialing, okay? You have 2 responsibilities. Number one, you're gonna stand at the door in these different classrooms or different larger rooms and just verify that people are in the right place in the right room. and you'll just want to check their credentials that it matches the ones that are in that race. And then if they happen or if they need help to knowing where to go, you just want to direct them where to go. Yes, Mark.
And we should add that even people that are not credentialed for that race are welcome to come in, space allowing. In a lot of these rooms, we are going to be filling every seat. So if there's a visitor that wants to come, they'll need to be standing off to the side or in the back, but other people can be there. The main point of checking the credentials at the door is to make sure that the people that are going there to vote are in the right place, because there's so many different rooms, races, times, breakout sessions, and everything that we want to help be as helpful as we can to make sure that when people are going to a room to vote, that they're in the right room. That's the point of this door checking. We don't need to exclude people necessarily, other than to let people know, hey, if you're not here to vote, you'll need to stay in the back or stand to the side, seats permitting.
Yes, thank you. All right, your second responsibility is you're going to be marking the credential itself when a delegate submits their ballot. And this is while the elections are open. So we'll have a permanent marker in each of these envelopes. And so you'll use that permanent marker to mark the delegate's credential immediately before they submit their ballot into the ballot box or into that envelope and to the ballot manager, okay? And then your third responsibility is you're going to help that ballot manager or ballot box holder tally the ballots once the election is closed. Okay. And then the last, fourth role is a poll watcher. So in the general session, because it's such a big and important, and I mean, all elections are important, but there's just a ton going on, especially during the general session. We have assigned a poll watcher volunteer to each ballot box. So in the general session, there will be 16 ballot boxes. So that means 16 ballot box holders, 16 credential markers, and 16 poll watcher volunteer persons for the general session. So you guys are all going to go in clusters of 3 around to the auditorium. Now, for the general session as a poll watcher volunteer, your responsibility is to be with those other 2 people at all times. And then also you will be watching the delegates submit the ballots. You're going to watch over the election, like the ballot submission process, so nothing goes wrong. You want to keep a particular eye on the ballot box itself and the submission of ballots, that it's going correctly, that, the credential checker or marker isn't marking somebody's twice or in the wrong order or anything like that. So you'll just want to keep an eye to make sure that everything is going correctly. And then afterwards, this isn't in this PowerPoint specifically, but this is very important. You will need to stay with both the ballot box holder and the credential checker and walk with them back to the stage to give that ballot box full of ballots to the stage, so then we can start scanning and counting all the scantrons. Okay. And then otherwise, just throughout the day in general, for other races, you might just be assigned as a runner. So great. Okay. Now I'm going to go turn the time over to Mark here, and he's going to just explain some big picture special situations that might occur, and also go into maybe a little bit more detail into how to respond when those special situations occur in your various responsibilities. So go for it, Mark.
Thanks, Christina. So in the elections, we have a lot of different types of elections and a lot of different circumstances where people that were have filed to run for public office, or people that are just coming forward to say, hey, I want to be a state delegate. In situations where there are only 2 people running for a position, whatever it is, then there's just going to be one round of voting, and that round of voting will determine the results. But if there are 3 or more people running for the position, then we may well have multiple rounds of voting. We know that there are about 5 races between the Senate and House races where there are more than two people running, so there are likely to be multiple rounds. And definitely in the state delegate races, there are very likely to be multiple rounds because anybody that is qualified, that's a registered Republican within the proper districts, can be put forward, it can be nominated. There's some important pieces to that, and let me just kind of take a few of those. So with regard to the state delegates, so for any of the other races other than the state delegates, it's already determined who the candidates are. There can't be any more nominations on those. But for the state delegate, we don't have anybody yet for these positions, and so the nominees will come forward during the election, and so an important part of those elections will be the nomination process. People can nominate themselves, people can nominate other people. If someone nominates someone, if they are there as a credentialed county delegate, then that's fine. If someone wants to nominate someone who is not a credentialed county delegate that is there in person, then you as the election lead will need to verify their eligibility. And it's going to be a little bit complicated, and it's basically a little bit like what we did with the caucus meetings, and that is that they're going to have a copy of the individual's state issued photo ID to verify name and address, and then their status as a registered Republican in the proper districts will have to be verified. That's a little bit complicated. If you have questions, we have some details in the instructions, but you can also ask us if you need help on that. But then for the multiple rounds, what will happen is, and there's a slightly different arrangement, slightly different rules, but just to really briefly tell you, after the first round where there are 3 or more candidates, you'll add up the number of votes for each individual, then the total number of votes, and then from that you figure out what is the percent that each candidate, each individual received of the total votes. And for the state delegate races, if anybody gets a majority of the votes, then that person fills that slot. If nobody does, then you have to go through and count up, and we have the details of how to go through this, count up a majority, chop off people at the bottom, go into the next round, and then see and proceed with that until you get to someone getting a majority. And then if there are 2 or more state delegate positions to fill, then you can go through that again. So it may take some time, and that's why we've allowed for basically all of these state delegate races, we've allowed a couple of hours to in the room to be able to conduct the election if that's necessary. We hope not, but just to let you know that we've structured the schedule, Chrisanna has structured the schedule to make that work. Also, for the candidates for public office, again, if there are 2 people that are candidates, it's going to be 1 round and you're going to be done. But in the 5 elections where there are races with 3 or more candidates, then what will happen is you go through the first round of voting. If anybody gets 60% or more of the vote, they are the party nominee. If nobody gets at least 60%, then there's a detailed process that you need to go through to figure out who then proceeds into the next round of voting, so that it gets narrowed down. And then in the final round of voting, or whatever round you have only 2 candidates, that will be the final round. And then if in that final round where there are 2 candidates, if one person gets 60% or more, they are the party nominee. If in that final round with 2 candidates, if neither gets 60%, then both of them will proceed to the Republican primary in June. And that will be the end of it. There isn't another round that happens after that. And just, I guess one other thing that I'd like to emphasize, Chrisanna covered this, but I want to coordinate this, and that is to understand the coordination between the person who is doing the credential checking and the ballot box holder. The person doing the credential checking checks the credential, marks it off, and then basically, figuratively, hands off that person to the ballot box holder for them to then move their hand off of the slot and let them slide it in. If you've been to elections before in the county party process, you've seen this, but that coordination between those two individuals is really important, and that's how that needs to work. So you guys aren't functioning independently, you are operating in a coordinated fashion. And so make sure that that as the credential is checked, as credential is reviewed, the box is checked on the credential, then that person is who gets a chance to put their ballot in the box, and then the box is covered over again. And we're going to be available for questions. Also, just to let you know, in the races that involve people running for public office, we believe that we will have two-way radio available for each of the people leading those elections, the volunteers that are conducting that, so that if something comes up, you can get in touch with us immediately. But in any event, in any race, if anything comes up, let us know right away so that we can be involved with you to make sure that whatever questions, whatever hiccups happen, whatever issues arise, that we can help that be resolved so that it doesn't become a bigger problem. And so there are our phone numbers. One of us, either Mark, Chrisanna, or Mike Melton, will be at the elections desk in the gymnasium. There are our phone numbers. We'll probably see if we can text our phone numbers to you so you have them on your phone and you can just quickly text or call us. I think that's it for me.
Yes, thank you so much, Mark. Yes, so just to reiterate, you can contact us, and definitely if you have any questions even before the convention day starts, like in the morning, or we know that we're sending out this volunteer video the day before, which there's been a lot of coordination to get to this point. So thank you for your patience in all of this, and we are so grateful for you. And yes, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. And I think the other thing I just want to emphasize too is all of the packets will have election instructions on how to run the elections in detail. And the reason why we want you to arrive 15 minutes beforehand, before that session starts, to your allotted time and appointment, is so you guys can all come together, read through those election instructions, coordinate, run through that packet, or like see what else that you might need in that specific election. So, and I think that is it. Anything else, Mark, that you have?
And just to let everybody know, Chrisanna and I think Mike as well, will be there very early Saturday morning. And so feel free to call, text us, arrive early, come find us, ask us where we are, ask us questions, get the lay of the land, whatever. So do please come as early as you can to kind of get your feet underneath you, and so that you're ready for what needs to be done. I think that's it. Thank you so much. We are so very grateful for your help. You are absolutely instrumental to this whole process, which is the point of this election. This is the nominating election to choose these candidates. And you are going to help make that happen in a fair, open, and transparent manner. And we really appreciate it.
Yes, I'll just reiterate our thanks to you, and we appreciate you so much. And yes, please let us know again if you have any questions, and we're here for you. So take care, everybody.